Well, the public protector's findings have been met with mixed reactions, some calling on the president to omit Gordhan from his cabinet, while others think Mkhwebane has a personal agenda. But what does the law say? Well, to help us understand what is fact and what is political agenda, we have a legal expert, Phepelapi Dube. Good evening, Phepelapi, and thanks very much for your time. Once the public protector releases her report, and in that report gives or states what she believes should be the remedial action, that is binding to the parties concerned, isn't it?
Well, I think in terms of various judgments that have come out of the courts, and I think the most famous judgment in this regard is the Nkandla judgment, where the EFF challenged the inaction of the National Assembly insofar as holding the former president to account. So in that judgment, the Constitutional Court made it quite clear that the remedial action that is recommended by the Public Protector's Office is binding. And in the event that this particular remedial action is either irrational or unlawful, then it's only a court that can overturn that particular piece of remedial action. So in this instance, if we follow the reasoning of that particular judgment, it stands to reason that Pravin Gordhan would have to abide by the remedial action given down by the public protector unless and until he goes to court and challenges those findings. And if the courts then find in his favor, that's really the only time where he's not obliged to abide by the public protector's recommendations.
Now, yesterday, Pravin Gordhan's lawyers filed a review application with the High Court. What does that do to the public protector's report and remedial action?
Well, it depends on what they've specifically asked for in this in this application, in the sense that they can ask the courts to, as a matter of urgency, set aside the findings of the public protector on the basis that if he was to abide by those findings, then it would be prejudicial, and that such prejudice would be in the long run irreversible. But of course, it stands to reason that if the court then weighs on that particular piece of application, then the court can do that without necessarily weighing in on the merits of the actual recommendation of the public protector. So in this instance, these are really the options that are open to Pravin Gordhan.
Well, you may not hear this particular soundbite, but for the sake of our viewers, I'm going to play it and summarize it to you. And this is from an interview I did last night with Pravin Gordhan's lawyer.
We may be forced in our hands, not necessarily us, but other parties, may be forced to approach a court on an urgent basis and say, hang on, stay the effect of this remedial action until a court properly ventilates whether the report is lawful, constitutional, or not. You know, and in the ordinary course, those orders are not even matters which require people to bring court applications, but the function would say, I'm happy to hold back my decision and its implementation pending the outcome of a court process. And of course, that's deferring to the judiciary, which oversees all of this conduct in the end, including the public protector's report.
Well, I believe you did hear that, Phepelapi, and the indication, certainly from what Pravin Gordhan's lawyer said last night, is that they may be forced to approach the court to ask it to stay the effect of both the report and its remedial action. But as things stand, it would seem that they have not done so. What then is, if that is correct, or that is the true state of affairs, what does that do to the public protector's report and the remedial action that she has asked for?
Well, I think it's important to remember the powers of the public protector in the sense that it's an office which wields immense power, and it's an office which is, in a sense, inimical to South Africa's constitutional democracy. And so, in a sense, bearing in mind the findings of the Nkandla judgment, it is important that the recommendations that are coming out of the public protector's office be given effect to. And if else they're not, then, in a sense, this would be, to some extent, an erosion of South Africa's rule of law.
Just for clarity again, and I'm sorry for laboring the same point, and I've been looking at social media, everyone has been talking about this ahead, of course, of the 8 o'clock announcement by President Cyril Ramaphosa of his cabinet. Does the mere filing of a review application automatically puts the public protector's report in abeyance? Or is it a successful review, in other words, a decision of the court that actually does that?
Well, I think in this instance there are two issues. So the first issue can be that the legal representatives of Pravin Gordhan can specifically ask the courts to hold the report of the public protector in abeyance unless and until another court comes to a different conclusion regarding the merits of that particular review. And then the second issue is if Pravin Gordhan's legal representatives launch a direct challenge to the merits of that particular report. And in that instance, if a court then overturns the findings of that report, then it would stand to reason that he is no longer bound by the recommendations that are in that report. But unless and until a court has specifically stated that Pravin Gordhan is not in a position to abide by the findings of that report, then for all intents and purposes, he is bound by the remedial action that is recommended in those reports.
And if Pravin Gordhan's lawyers, in their review application, did not ask for the report to be put in abeyance, is it automatic that the public protector's ruling stands until a successful review, or until at least they ask for the court to put it in abeyance?
Well, in a nutshell, and just drawing from the previous judgments of the Constitutional Court, specifically the Nkandla judgment, it does stand to reason that Pravin Gordhan is obliged to abide by the findings of the public protector's report.
And that's where we're going to leave it for this evening. Thank you very much, Pepelapi Dube, who is a legal expert, joining us live from our Cape Town studios.